Kids, Gypsy didn't fill out no paperwork.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard is once again at the center of a media storm, but this time, it's not about her notorious crime, her ongoing struggles with parole, or her latest attempt to stay in the headlines. Instead, it's about something much more complicated: money, redemption, and the fine line between genuine atonement and calculated manipulation. After years of deception and an infamous history involving medical fraud, one would think that if Gypsy were trying to make amends, her actions would be transparent, humble, and sincere.
Kids, Gypsy didn't fill out no paperwork.
We're 22, 23, somewhere in there when you took your last Make-A-Wish. A full-grown adult who knew her age. You were running the scam with your mama. You knew what you were doing. I'm sure your mama didn't give a crap.
Unfortunately, her latest attempt to do so has left many questioning her true intentions and has opened up a floodgate of scrutiny. The latest controversy revolves around a donation Gypsy claimed to have made to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. On the surface, the idea of her donating money to a cause she once exploited could be seen as a sign of personal growth, a step toward redemption. After all, this is the same woman who, along with her mother Dee Blanchard, perpetrated one of the most shocking and twisted medical scams in recent history. They convinced everyone that Gypsy was terminally ill, receiving thousands of dollars in charitable donations, celebrity gifts, and special experiences.
Not she did for you. Diddy didn't ride them rides either. Not to mention the fact that you took that money out of you and Ryan's joint bank account without telling him. Wife of the Year award. But you should pay that back. You should pay society back. Because you was full grown. Ain't no sins of your...
All while Gypsy was, in fact, perfectly healthy. Now, after years of benefiting from the lies, Gypsy says she's trying to make things right. But the way she went about it, timing, delivery, and public handling, has raised a lot of red flags. In a video posted on her social media, Gypsy announced that she had privately donated $4,200 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. She framed it as a deeply personal decision, something that she felt compelled to do for her own peace of mind. She insisted it wasn't about recognition or publicity, it was about integrity. Yet, despite claiming that the donation was intended to be a quiet act of redemption, she didn't keep it private.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Gypsy, good for you for paying the donation, but you know what? When you're married, you should probably tell that person that you're taking $5,000 out of the bank account because that's a good lump sum of monies, okay? Mr. Revenue would be mad for a reason, okay?
No, she made sure to share it with the public, timing the announcement perfectly when her already crumbling reputation was under fire. For many, this raised immediate suspicions. Was it really about making things right? Or was it a strategic move to improve her image amid growing backlash? The timing itself was telling. Why make such a significant statement about redemption just as the public's sympathy for her was dwindling? It didn't feel like an honest act of charity, it felt like damage control. And in typical Gypsy fashion, she couldn't resist throwing her mother under the bus once again.
I would be mad at that. Why the hell would you do that and then say something after? You don't do it and then ask for forgiveness later. Didn't we learn a thing or two that that's not how this works? You need to ask and then do so. And if it's not the right move, they're going to tell you and you should probably listen. She said Ryan's was mad over the donation because you know what, Gypsy? Your whole ass lied and then you didn't tell him that you were going to spend the money. You lied and you spent money. Taking money, lying, and then spending it is a whole ass thing, okay? You can't be doing that.
As she announced the donation, she made sure to frame it in the context of her mother's complicated actions, dragging Dee Dee's name into the mix yet again, as if that somehow excused her own involvement in the years of deception. This behavior is becoming all too familiar. When Gypsy is under pressure, she doesn't take responsibility, she deflects. Instead of admitting her role in the scheme, she repositions herself as a victim, a traumatized woman struggling to heal while refusing to own up to her actions. And while there's no doubt that Gypsy endured severe abuse at the hands of her mother, it's impossible to ignore that she was an active participant in the fraud. She wasn't just a passive victim. She knew she wasn't sick.
Make-A-Wish Foundation in Gypsy Rose's name. However, I noticed something. I'm not saying anything, but my receipt looks different than hers. I noticed hers reads employee or employer. I will overlay it. But why does it look so different?
She ate solid food. She was aware of the deception and at many points willingly took advantage of the system that was so generously giving to her. That's where this donation falls short in the eyes of many critics. It's not so much about whether or not the money was donated, it's about the reasons behind the donation and how it was handled. If Gypsy was truly seeking redemption, she wouldn't have posted about it in a way that seemed calculated, as if she was trying to control the narrative. Instead of quietly donating and moving on, she turned it into another spectacle, a chance to shift the focus from her own role in the crime to her ongoing trauma.
Is it because a corporation made a donation in her name? I'm not understanding it. I noticed this because, of course, I printed out the receipt to give to our accountant because this is a tax write-off. So I'm just genuinely curious because it's conflicting. So I just wanted to share that. If anybody knows why it would be different, please comment below. I'm blown away. I'm just curious.
All while subtly pointing fingers at her mother. This is not the behavior of someone genuinely seeking to make things right. It's the behavior of someone who still doesn't understand the full weight of her actions. Let's talk about the amount, $4,200. To the average person, that might sound like a decent donation, especially in times of financial struggle. However, when you consider Gypsy's circumstances, it's clear that this amount is barely a drop in the bucket. Gypsy is not living paycheck to paycheck. She's been at the center of media attention for years now.
Blanchard. So you're telling me you were going to spend $12,000 on Taylor Swift tickets, which you tried to take out of your joint account with Ryan, but it was blocked because y'all were separated, but you couldn't add anything to your employer.
She's appeared in multiple paid interviews, collaborations, and even secured a documentary deal. She's made money off her story and her time in the public eye. So when you compare her donation to the vast sums of money and the luxury experiences she once received from Make-A-HW-ish, while taking those opportunities away from genuinely terminally ill children, it's hard to see this as anything other than an attempt to rewrite history. Her donation doesn't even come close to making up for the damage done, both financially and emotionally. What's even more alarming is that Gypsy's financial priorities seem all over the place. Just recently, reports surfaced that she tried to spend $12,000 on VHIHP tickets for a Taylor Swift concert. Yes, you read that right, $12,000 for a night out.
Here's $4,200 donation to Make-A-Wish. On top of that, you made a remark, a comment to be exact, that Ryan got upset with you regarding the amount you donated, when clearly it says employer, or employee, one of the two. And I knew that because obviously it states it, but additionally when I made my donation, it didn't say any of that and my receipt looked completely different.
This wouldn't be so problematic if it weren't for the fact that Gypsy had no access to the joint bank account she shared with her now estranged husband, Ryan. A court had already ruled that neither of them could withdraw funds until their divorce was finalized, yet that didn't stop Gypsy from trying to spend money she was legally barred from accessing. This paints a disturbing picture of someone who seems more interested in maintaining a luxurious lifestyle than actually making amends for their past wrongdoings. In the end, the donation feels like a poorly executed attempt at redemption, one that does little to undo the years of damage she caused.
That not only has there been no redemption or remorse or reparation for your CRIME, but then you try to tell the people you did something that you clearly did not. But y'all, what do we expect from a
It might have been intended to show growth or healing, but the public isn't buying it. The timing, the language, and the way it was framed only served to reinforce the idea that Gypsy is still playing the same game she's always played, manipulating the narrative to gain sympathy and control the way people see her. If she truly wanted to make things right, she wouldn't have posted about it for the world to see. She wouldn't have used it as another opportunity to deflect responsibility and shift blame onto others. The $4,200 donation to the Make-A-Wish Foundation that Gypsy claims she made, well, it's stirring up a lot of skepticism.
these comments? She has a comment filter on. So she approves the ones she wants to respond to and then responds to them, and most of the time deletes them. And I think the Mr. Revenue comment was on their show on the first season. She was acting like she was.
The timing of this donation is questionable, especially when you consider her history of exploiting charities and the resources meant for seriously ill children. After all, Gypsy and her mother once staged an elaborate ruse to make it look like Gypsy was terminally ill, and in doing so, they swindled thousands of dollars in donations. Now, after benefiting from the scam for years, Gypsy claims to be making things right, but the way she's going about it raises more doubts than it alleviates.
But she wasn't. And Ryan said, well, get the money off of it. I mean, obviously, right? And she was saying she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the money. Yeah, so he's Mr. Revenue. And GRB is Miss Murderer.
If we look closely at Gypsy's public explanation, It feels less like a heartfelt gesture and more like a calculated PR move. She claims the donation wasn't about recognition, but was something she felt she needed to do for herself to make things right. However, this donation came at a very specific moment, right when public support for her was dwindling. It felt strategic, more like damage control than a genuine act of kindness. Gypsy, as always, couldn't resist throwing her mother under the bus once again, claiming her actions were motivated by the trauma her mother caused her.
Kids, Gypsy didn't fill out no paperwork.
You were 22, 23, somewhere in there when you took your last Make-A-Wish. A full-grown adult who knew her age. You were running the scam with your mama. You knew what you were doing. I'm sure your mama didn't give a crap.
It's a familiar tactic from Gypsy. When she's faced with criticism, instead of reflecting on her own role in the situation, she deflects the blame and positions herself as a victim. And while it's true that Gypsy may have endured trauma, there's a larger issue at play here. Gypsy herself was not entirely innocent in the deception. She wasn't a passive participant in the scam. She was an active player. She knew exactly what was going on and played her part in it. Yet, here she is, offering up a donation that pales in comparison to the harm she caused.
Not to do for you. Diddy didn't ride them rides neither. Not to mention the fact that you took that money out of you and Ryan's joint bank account without telling him. Wife of the Year award. But you should pay that back. You should pay society back. Because you was full grown. Ain't no sins of your.
The timing is suspicious, and the language in her announcement feels more like she's trying to sell a new narrative about her character rather than taking responsibility for her past actions. To make matters worse, Gypsy then tried to paint herself as generous in comparison to her ex-husband, Ryan. In the comments section of the donation post, she mentioned that Ryan wasn't aware of the donation when it happened, but that she told him afterward. She also made sure to throw in that Ryan complained about how much she donated.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy, good for you for paying the donation, but you know what? When you're married, you should probably tell that person that you're taking $5,000 out of the bank account because that's a good lump sum of monies, okay? Mr. Revenue would be mad for a reason, okay?
Painting him as the villain once again. She went further by revealing how much money she had contributed to their joint account, adding, "What people don't know is that I put $50,000 into our joint account, and he made maybe $3,000 on a teacher's salary, so the majority was my money to do with what I pleased." The intention here seems clear. She's trying to make herself look magnanimous and Ryan appear petty, all while subtly shifting the blame and rewriting the narrative to make herself the heroine. But as more people started digging into the details of her donation, it became clear that something wasn't quite right.
I would be mad at that. Why the hell would you do that and then say something after? You don't do it and then ask for forgiveness later. Didn't we learn a thing or two that that's not how this works? You need to ask and then do so. And if it's not the right move, they're going to tell you and you should probably listen. She said Ryan was mad over the donation because you know what, Gypsy? Your whole ass lied and then you didn't tell him that you were going to spend the money. You lied and you spent money. Taking money, lying, and then spending it is a whole ass thing, okay? You can't be doing that.
When you make a donation to a major charity like Make-A-Wish, you expect certain formalities. A proper donation receipt, tax ID numbers, confirmation numbers, and legal disclaimers. However, Gypsy's receipt lacked all of these elements. It looked like something anyone could easily create with a basic PDF template. And the most alarming part, the employer section on the receipt listed Gypsy Rose, not a company or organization, which raises a huge question. Was the donation made from her personal funds, or was it from one of her business entities, such as her newly registered LLC?
Kids, Gypsy didn't fill out no paperwork.
If it was from her LLC or any of the media companies profiting off her story, then this donation wasn't a personal act of giving. It could have been a strategic business move, a way to write off a tax expense. This isn't an uncommon practice, but when your entire public persona is built on the idea of redemption and doing the right thing, presenting a tax loophole as personal growth is a bit hard to swallow.
Make-A-Wish Foundation in Gypsy Rose's name. However, I noticed something. I'm not saying anything, but my receipt looks different than hers. I noticed hers reads employee or employer. I will overlay it. But why does it look so different?
And if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, sources have claimed that Gypsy reached out to Make-A-Wish and Habitat for Humanity, offering donations, but only on the condition that she could film the donation handovers. Both organizations reportedly turned her down, seeing the requests as nothing more than a PR stunt. They weren't willing to be used as props in her quest for a rebrand. This raises even more questions about her true intentions. If Gypsy's goal was really to help, why did she insist on filming the donations? It seems as though it was more about creating a spectacle, capturing the look at me.
Is it because a corporation made a donation in her name? I'm not understanding it. I noticed this because, of course, I printed out the receipt to give to our accountant because this is a tax write-off. So I'm just genuinely curious because it's conflicting. So I just wanted to share that. If anybody knows why it would be different, please comment below. I'm blown away. I'm just curious.
Undoing something good moment for her documentaries or Instagram posts. When you start to examine this private donation, the more it unravels. From the shoddy paperwork to the possibility of it being a business transaction disguised as charity, to the alleged demands to film the handover, it all feels like part of a larger, ongoing performance. Gypsy Rose has been carefully crafting her public redemption arc, but the cracks are starting to show. Her history of questionable actions, like the DNA test scandal, only adds fuel to the fire.
These comments. She has a comment filter on. So she approves the ones she wants to respond to and then responds to them, and most of the time deletes them. And I think the Mr. Revenue comment was on their show on the first season. She was acting like she was.
Remember when she tried to prove she wasn't pregnant by presenting a DNA test that didn't meet legal standards? It was just another attempt to manipulate the truth in her favor, and it ended up backfiring. Now, with this donation, it feels like déjà vu. Maybe she'll claim she's changed. Maybe she'll come up with another excuse, perhaps shifting the blame to her mother once again. Or, more likely, she'll use this moment for yet another TikTok video. The issue here isn't the amount of money she donated. It's about her motives and the way she's handled the entire situation. If this donation truly came from a place of remorse, she would have done it quietly. No flashy posts, no receipts, no trying to make a spectacle of it. Instead, Gypsy turned this into another way to center herself.
But she wasn't. And Ryan said, well, get the money off of it. I mean, obviously, right? And she was saying she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the money. Yeah, so he's Mr. Revenue. And GRB is Miss Murder.
She took the opportunity to criticize Ryan and spin her own narrative to make herself look like the victim. It's clear that her goal isn't simply to do good, it's to craft a new image for herself. But someone truly looking to make amends wouldn't use their actions for self-promotion. They wouldn't deflect, manipulate, or try to rewrite the past to gain sympathy. True redemption doesn't come with conditions, and it certainly doesn't require attention or applause. So, what's really going on here? Is Gypsy genuinely trying to make things right? Or is this just another attempt to make herself look like a better person? Was the donation about healing, or was it simply a way to stay in the spotlight? Let me know your thoughts. Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more, because with Gypsy Rose, the truth is always more complicated than she wants us to believe.